and good morning, and welcome to Issues That Matter. And I'm Robert Petone, your host, and we have a wonderful guest today. She's been on our show at least once before, possibly twice. My memory is kind of hazy on this, but we have Terry Hayes. Terry, welcome back.
Thank you, Bob. Pleasure to be here.
Last time Terry was on the show, she was a gubernatorial candidate running on an independent ticket. Didn't work out, but she found another slot that, personally speaking, I would say she's ideal for.
Thank you.
And Terry now works for Workforce Development, Maine.
Well, Hospitality Maine.
I'm sorry.
Hospitality Maine.
There's my mess up for the day.
Well, you know what's interesting, Bob, is a year ago, Hospitality Maine didn't exist. So it's relatively new, but it's the result of a merger from the Restaurant Association of Maine and the Innkeepers Association of Maine. And they came together in 2018 with a sense that if they combined their efforts, they would be more successful. And that's what created Hospitality Maine. And I am their newly coined Director of Workforce Development.
What do you do?
My job is to help create a reliable talent supply chain for the hospitality industry in Maine.
Define hospitality industry.
Well, for the purposes of my organization, we're focused on restaurants and lodging, on food and lodging. But I would argue that hospitality is probably a bit broader than that. So it's a little bit narrower than tourism as a whole. But these are the folks that provide meals and lodging for our visitors. They're the ones they're the welcome mat, the folks that when folks come to Maine, we have the numbers vary, but clearly I think just about any of the data points would agree that we have over 30 million visitors a year that come to Maine. Okay, so they're coming here because they want to experience some of what we have. Some of them are coming in the winter because they want to ice fish and snowmobile, and some of them are coming in the summer because they want to go on a whale watch and they want to see the lighthouses, or they want to hike up Mount Katahdin. There's a whole boatload of reasons that they're coming, and it's a testament to the success of our marketing efforts with promoting Maine as a vacation destination. So the hospitality industry, and if you think about that part of our economy, right now the largest sector in our economy is healthcare, and the second largest sector is the hospitality industry. It's catering to our visitors. So we're struggling, as are other industries in Maine.
And where is the struggle?
The struggle is that we have more jobs than we have employees.
And when was the last time we, in our economy, we were able to say that we had more jobs than we had people to fill them?
I don't remember it. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It may have been I wasn't paying attention at the time. We're more accustomed to being in the other, where we have more talent than we have jobs. But we have more jobs than we have talent to fill them. And so the challenge is to look around and find people who, young people, folks who may be interested in a career in hospitality, and how to welcome them and help make it easier for them to test the waters. Some of it is focusing on, I would call, different talent referral sources, returning veterans, folks that are, coming back from the service. We have a number of service folks who retire and want to live in Maine. They might have served here, during their military career. There are folks who made mistakes, at some earlier point, and have been in the Department of Corrections, and they're coming out of their incarceration, and they want to contribute. They want to earn. They want to be able to be a participating member of the economy. There are young people who are taking culinary arts and hospitality courses in our career and technical high schools, and finding ways to hook them into apprenticeships within the hospitality industry.
Okay, I'm a returning veteran.
Yes.
I'm not, but I've done that.
It's okay, we'll role play.
Okay. I'm a returning veteran, and I want to get involved in the hospitality industry here in Maine. What's my first step?
Well, the first thing I would say is go to Hospitality Maine's website.
Okay.
It's all going to start on the internet. We have an apprenticeship program that that the Department of Labor is collaborating with us. So it's Hospitality Maine, the Department of Labor, and the community college system. One of the bigger challenges for folks who've learned their skills in our military service is that they don't have the certification or the paperwork, if you will, that validates their skill set. So if they were to just go into the community college, they're likely to be paying tuition to take courses for things they already know how to do. With our apprenticeship program, if you've worked in the military and you were engaged, for example, in anything that had to do with meal prep and running a mess hall and all of those component parts, you could come into our apprenticeship program, be provided credit for your prior learning, and we'll pick you up where you are now and take you that next step. And we do that collaboratively. So I would say that's one of the places. There are several organizations across the state who, including government agencies, designed to help provide those resources and referrals to returning veterans. But an email to me is, I'm right there. I'm available on the website, and we'll hook you up with one of our members. There are over 1,000 members of our organization. These are businesses across the state. And one of the members that has signed up to host an apprentice, and we will help do that matching. You get the job, because this is an earn while you learn strategy. It's a minimum 2,000 hours on the job, but rotating through a variety of different tasks.
What types of jobs are you referring to?
Well, the first two that we're focused on in the apprenticeship program right now are entry-level positions, one in hospitality or guest services, and the other one as a line cook, so working in a food prep in a restaurant. We're starting with those two, but these are entry-level positions for people who may want a career in the industry, and you can then combine your prior education experience with education experience during our apprenticeship program that will propel you further towards a degree in culinary arts that will take you up to the chef category or, executive chef, and access other training. It's all designed, if you think about talent and labor as a supply chain, we need people throughout the industry, not just at the entry level. We're looking for folks in and we can't fill those positions with, the foreign visa holders that can come for months at a time. We don't get enough of those. We went in 2017. We went through the height of the summer tourist season with over 3,500 jobs that weren't filled in hospitality. So there were restaurants that weren't fully open, that left parts of their dining rooms closed. We had lodging establishments that did not make all of their rooms available, that turned away potential paying guests because they did not have the staff to provide for
the services,
that portion of their facility. So we're looking at the entry level. We're looking at high school students in the career and technical education programs. We're looking at Jobs for Maine graduates, a Job Corps program, a whole variety of talent sources.
Is it a shortcoming on my part that I was not aware of that? Or was there a lack of, I'll call, publicity, advertising the fact that we have that shortage?
No, I don't think there's any criticism of you for not knowing. When I was on the campaign trail, I was fully aware that from a statewide perspective, our labor situation is at a crisis. It sounds like a positive when we say we're at full employment or our unemployment numbers are so low. But that's a success problem, okay? Because these businesses, what keeps our economy revving is growth. And you can't grow a business that you can't fully staff in its current size. So growth will be limited, and ultimately it's more likely that our economy is going to contract. Businesses are going to get smaller. They're not going to get bigger unless we tackle this talent pool problem. That's why I say we need a reliable, sustainable talent supply chain.
But which came first, the horse or the cart? The horse being the need for people, the cart being jobs available for those people.
Well, we've had the jobs. We have the jobs, and our economy has been at a slower than national growth here in Maine, but still growing. Here's the problem: it's the lack of people, and that lack is because our birth rate is down. We have a growing cohort of people who are retiring, who are coming to the end of their working career, and that they have not replaced themselves in terms of the birth rate. And that's been going on for a number of years. I was thinking, I can remember in the late 80s and early 90s, Charlie Colgan, who was an economist at the University of Southern Maine, was telling us that this was in our future.
Well, I have known that we have the eldest population in the country. We also have the most rural population in the country. And those are two major challenges that the state, I would say, on an annual basis, face.
Well, it's gotten worse because our birth rate has not been lower than our death rate, and it is now. So there's been a progression, if you will, in our demographics, and it was predictable. It was predicted for us, and I would suggest that we have been slow to respond, or our responses have been inadequate to date. Okay.
Now, before we started the show, you and I were engaged in a conversation, and immigration came up, both legal and illegal. Paint the picture as you see it.
Well, globally, there's talent that we can't access. There are people who would happily come here and work and participate in our economy. So there's a couple of things that the United States, the national, federal government determines how many international immigrants can come in a year. There's a quota, if you will. And I would say that quota holds us back. There are more people who want to be here, generally in the United States. We don't compete very effectively among our peer states. So the people who do come, what were the numbers? I won't remember them exactly, but multiple times more immigrants, new immigrants who come here legally, go to Minnesota than come to Maine.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
What is it about Minnesota that attracts them?
Isn't that an interesting question? Okay. Part of what attracts them is our thriving communities from their home countries. So predecessors, other people that come there. So you ask, well, why is that? Well, for reasons that aren't unique to Minnesota. I mean, it's not the weather. Let's face it, okay? It's not that. But what are we doing here that is immigrant friendly? How welcoming are we? How easy and how kind are we in making it so that people can come and can participate and can be successful? Because these are folks that aren't coming because they want you and I as taxpayers to take care of them. They're coming because they want the American dream. You know, that's what they want. And they know you got to work to get that.
Might we have too many of the people who fit into the category that you had previously mentioned? People who want to come here and take advantage. I'll say take advantage of us.
You know, I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's the case at all. I really believe that these are folks that see an opportunity here to participate.
I'm not referring to the group that you're speaking about that go to Minnesota.
No.
I'm speaking about the people that, I don't know how to phrase this, good phraseology for this, but the people that are not really, they want a place to hang out for a while,
well, see,
and get government support to do it.
Yeah, I would suggest to you there are very few of those. It's interesting. Most of the new Mainers who need public assistance, it's because the government won't let them work. It's not because they don't want to work. It's because they can't work. If they are an asylum seeker,
Excuse me?
if someone is in Maine, and they
Yep.
are an asylum seeker. They're
Okay.
here legally.
I couldn't make out what you said.
Okay, they're here legally, but their category is as an asylum seeker. They can't work until the federal government permits them to work, and most of the time it's a minimum of 6 months or longer. If you come here with a family, how would you support yourself, Bob? If how would I support my family if I was told that it was illegal for me to work for 6 months? What would I do?
I had never heard that.
Oh, it's a federal barrier. So it's federal laws. It's through the immigration.
Naturalization service.
Correct. Yeah, it's INS, and it's so asylum seekers. I think that it's probably founded at a time when there was real fear that that people from outside the country were coming and taking jobs away from us, from those of us that are here. But that's not the circumstance that we find ourselves in Maine right now. We would welcome. So I would say, I'm not speaking for Hospitality Maine when I talk about this. I'm talking about in a broader sense that increasing the number of legal immigrants would increase the talent supply chain, not just for our industry, but for other industries in Maine.
That would sound, it's scary to say, but that would sound logical to me.
Well, it sounds logical to me too, and it may be, from my perspective, when I look at Maine as a whole, not just the hospitality industry, I think challenging the existing paradigm around new Mainers is really going to be part of what's going to save our economy. I think we need to do that. It's not that all of our young people leave because there aren't any jobs here. There are jobs here. There are jobs here throughout our economy. Even in hospitality, we need people in executive roles. We need people at the front desk. We need concierges. We need people who can do the accounting and and take care of the business side of the business. You got it. So there are a series, a career ladder, if you will, both in the guest services side and in the restaurant and the culinary side that provide opportunities. And we need to share that with our youth. We need our own young people to understand that, and that it's not, it is no longer just a seasonal business in Maine. We're catering to visitors year-round.
What do you see as the pervading misperceptions of our labor market today, and our workforce today, our economy?
If Mainers are not an employer, and they're not working at a business that has that is struggling to fill a position, they're not accustomed to hearing that we have more jobs than we have people. We're used to the opposite being true, okay? And so it's hard for them to recognize that. As you said earlier, it's been a long time, and we can't remember when we last found ourselves in this situation, right? So it's not that it hasn't happened, it's just been that long. So they think, and then they have a personal experience that may differ. Maybe there's someone in my age cohort whose 35-year-old child went to the University of Maine, got a degree, couldn't find a job in Maine, and has been working in Massachusetts.
That's been the case
New York.
now that had been the case for a number of years.
Well, and think about what that does. It also, there's an expectation we've created in our young people that in order for you can get a job in Maine, but you have to go someplace else to have a career. That's often been it may seem a bit nuanced, but it's the language. So they take their career pursuit job in Massachusetts, in the greater Boston area. They go to New York, they go to Atlanta, they go to Chicago, and right now we don't have enough engineers in the state of Maine. Engineers, okay, architects. There are openings that. So how do we have to do a better job of matching that talent supply chain with employers here in Maine, and changing the messaging for our young people that you can actually not just have a job in Maine, but you can have a career here. we also need to tell that 35-year-old, hey, if you've been thinking about coming back, guess what? We've probably got that, that career job for you now if you want to come home.
That's what you perceive and what many others, I'm sure, perceive we have to do. How do you go about doing it?
Well, it's a collaborative effort. There are lots of different paths. Right now, Hospitality Maine is focused on existing talent that's here and finding it and securing, if you will, I call it like a referral system. So from a variety of different sources, where there are young people or folks in recovery, like I said earlier, veterans, folks coming out of corrections, new Mainers, who can work, who may be struggling with other. Think about it. There are other barriers. You mentioned one of our facts earlier about where one of the more rural states in the country. So transportation can be the number one barrier, for an individual in terms of they may have a work ethic. They can contribute and add value, in a kitchen, in a restaurant setting, or in a hotel, but they can't afford to live close enough to walk, and they can't afford a car.
Back some years ago, I used to work for an organization called the National Able Network, and what we did at the Able Network is we worked with older people who want to get back into the labor market, want to get back into the job market. One of the major challenges that we face, and I'll set up a scenario. I live in Kennebunk. There's a great job for me in Saco. I don't own a car. I don't have transportation.
Right.
But the cost from getting to Kennebunk to Saco without public transportation,
right,
which there is no public transportation to get from Kennebunk to Saco, at least nothing that is readily available or can be easily seen. How do I get that job? I can't. Because the cost of getting from Kennebunk to Scarborough or Saco is too extreme for me to even begin to think about that.
Well, this is it's precisely that type of scenario that is creating collaborative partnerships across the state, and I'll give you an example. I'm from Western Maine. I'm a bit more familiar with the details in my own backyard. Sunday River is an organization that caters, well, to year-round tourists, but the numbers bump up significantly during snow season. They've got a couple of different sides of the mountain they're skiing on. They've got 2 major hotels and a variety of other amenities and so forth. So their staffing needs go up big time in the winter, okay? They have the same challenge. Think about where they are. You're not going to ride your bike, okay? Or your motorcycle, for that matter, in January or February. So they got together with Western Maine Transportation and have sponsored bus runs that run up Route 2 from the Rumford, Mexico, all the way to the mountain and back. $2 a ride, okay? Timed for staff. Now, if you want to ride the bus up and ski, you can do that too. There's no reason that you can't. But $2 a ride for the employee. You couldn't drive it for that, and you couldn't keep a car on the road, for $4 a day and making that kind of run. I talked with the gentleman who runs Western Maine Transportation, and he began to tell me about efforts afoot in other parts of the state with similar collaborations where either an employer or a group of employers are coming together and finding ways to help subsidize that access and work with the provider, because they already have a significant part of the infrastructure. They need the money to be able to deploy it more frequently and focused. So anyway, I don't have a blanket solution. There's not a statewide solution, but there are examples of heightened need that is being met by bringing the people together, those who have the assets that can help and those that have the needs, and figuring out a way to make the math work. And Craig was telling me that there's similar collaboration going on between the Ellsworth and Bar Harbor, with Jackson Labs having a lot of skin in that game. There's something happening, and I want to say, I'll get it wrong, but there's an effort underway in York County. I just can't remember if it's Sanford to Wells, which it might be, and more focused on summertime deployment. They're also looking at, in the Lewis and Auburn area, being able to take people to and from the air base, the former air base in Brunswick, from Lewis and Auburn. So there are efforts, there are conversations and collaborations going on. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not a state-driven solution, but it's risen out of the needs in local areas and the willingness to think outside the box in terms of meeting the need.
It's strange because it's a problem born of success.
It is. It's a success problem all the way down the pike. And so the other thing that I would say there's a real opportunity for is more rideshare. If they're and whether an employer is, some employers aren't big enough to do this on the scale that might be necessary to make it work, but there's an opportunity there. That even if the participants, to join the matching game, if you will, paid a little bit of money up front, but it provided, well, what's the schedule? Where do you need to go? Oh, here's how we do this. We can crack this nut if we put our minds to it. Is what I guess the message.
How do we start? Or how does a person start to get involved in something like that?
Well, the first thing I would say is going to the existing organizations that are designed to support, and the career centers are a good example. For if let's say that you're a returning veteran, you want to participate in our apprenticeship program, you're very interested in the hospitality end of things, and you've been able to secure a position at the Oxford Casino Hotel. Okay, and they're going to be, I'm making this up right now.
Yep.
So let's say that employer has signed up to host an apprentice and you've gotten the job there, but you live in Mechanic Falls, which is close, but you don't have a car, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, who else is working there and has similar hours, and how can we tag you? How can we line you up with that? But the other thing that with our apprenticeship program, the Department of Labor has federal dollars. While you're an apprentice, you can access financial assistance for transportation, for daycare, for uniforms, other kind of work-related costs that may not be avoidable, up to $6,000. So that can cover transportation costs.
How do you access that?
You go through the Career Center. We will share with you, as you come into our apprenticeship program, we will refer you directly to the Career Center where you would fill out an application for that scholarship. And it's scholarship money. It's related because you're in a learning program, but it's not just for tuition or books. It's to cover some of those other living expenses that are barriers to success for people who want to be in the program. And if they're not in the hospitality industry, but they're an apprentice in the construction industry, they could qualify similarly. It's not just for this industry. So there's money available to support folks in the short term, and most of these apprenticeship programs are a minimum of a year long, okay? And some of them might be 2 years or more.
And if I understand it correctly, one of the best places for a person to check, or I should say one of the first places for a person to check would be a career center. They seem to be the beginning of the funnel.
Well, interestingly enough, we all support that network, the Career Center network, because it's paid for out of our tax dollars. I mean, both state and federal dollars. And the jobs of the people who work at the Career Centers, they know the most about all these different assistance opportunities that exist, and about the openings, the job listings. And they're trained to help match talent and interest and passion with positions. Okay, so I would say the Career Centers are a great place to start. That's why we're partnering. That's why Hospitality Maine is partnering with the Department of Labor here in Maine. And you can, as we bring employers into our program, you'll be able to go to our website and to the Career Centers to find out what opportunities might exist in your area.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've dabbled in that world. The nearest career center for the Bedford area would be in Saco.
I
Not
believe-
Saco, Sanford.
I know there's one in Sanford. I'm not sure if there's one in Bedford or not. I should have looked it up before I came down.
I don't think there is.
Okay.
But again, I could be wrong.
And they're the same. The information that's available if you go in person is all available online as well.
Yep.
And as we're putting our apprenticeship program together, we're going to make sure that all the applications and the documentation can be done digitally, just to make it easier for folks that don't necessarily are not able to get to the place they can apply. They'll be able to apply online.
One of the things that I've become, I would say, aware of over the course of years is that people often sell themselves short. And what I'm thinking is, now you spent a good share of your life involved in government work. You were state treasurer for the state of Maine for a few years. What did you learn there that has made you a proficient in your life now?
I would say it's more the who than the what, I guess. One of the benefits that I bring to my current position with Hospitality Maine is that I know a lot of people because I've interacted with them over the years as a school board member in my county and local community, and then in the legislature for 8 years, and then statewide as treasurer for 4. So I've met a lot of people, and have I know a little bit about what it is that they do, but I'm a good connector for that reason. So when Hospitality Maine put out a press release about bringing me on board to help with this effort, the phone started to ring, and it was people that, like the gentleman I mentioned at Western Maine Transportation, who said, "Terry, let me tell you what we're doing out here," because I needed to know about that. And he knew if I was going to be working in workforce, that was going to be part of the challenge. Emails and phone calls that come in from other, what I call talent referral sources, from the Department of Corrections, from Jobs for Maine graduates, from the Job Corps program in Bangor, which is the Federal Department of Labor sponsored organization that's really designed to take young people from 18 to 24 who may not believe they have value to add in the economy, and to give them an opportunity to explore different career paths and pick one that they feel passionate about and leave there with some skills. These are all potential referral sources. And so I would say that it's the people that I've met, and I've been in Maine so far for 60 years, okay, and I don't have any plans to leave. Maybe for vacation.
But we have no plans to kick you out either.
There you go. Well, so what I find fascinating is that you stay in Maine that long, you end up meeting the same people in different roles over time. And that has been my personal experience. So there are people that I'm encountering now with this new position that I haven't interacted with for years. But it turns out, well, look what they're doing now. They're working on this, veteran transition piece. They're working with a career and technical high school. There was a gentleman who's retired from teaching now, but he was a huge. It was just so much fun to meet with him. He used to teach at the Augusta Career and Technical High School, and his wife was a good friend of mine. Our kids grew up their son and one of my sons grew up together all the way through school. And I hadn't been in touch with these folks for a long time, and it was so wonderful to reconnect. And he teaches some of the entry-level ProServe and SafeServe courses for people that are handling food in Maine. So there are examples of that around the state. So it's an opportunity, I think, to use those connections, those personal connections, to try to bring these resources together to end up with this sustainable talent supply chain.
This very definitely plays into one of my philosophies that I've adopted over the years. I'll say over the more recent years, going back 10 years, we'll say. When I was working for the National Able Network, I would often hear, "I'm too old. They don't want me. I'm too old." Why would they want to hire a 65-year-old person? And I would tell them, no, you're not. Number one, take age out of it. take the concept of age out of your lexicon of words. Replace it with the concept of, or the term experience.
There you go. Right.
If you're 65 years old, in old terms, your new terms is, I have 65 years of life's experiences.
Right.
And that puts me eons ahead of these young bucks coming out of college who can probably dance around me on a computer, that's for sure. But I can write one heck of a better business letter.
You know, you raise a really good point, though, Bob. Among the sources...
Of course it's a good point. That's why I raised it.
But among the potential sources for talent are retirees. You know, what's interesting is there are people who move to Maine when they retire, who may have vacationed here. They may have been here for summer camp when they were kids. There's a variety of reasons, but there's a growing number of people who choose to come to Maine in their retirement. But they may have retired from their career, but they're not done working. They're not done contributing. And there's a growing interest in bringing them into our hospitality programs and say, well, okay, so you always thought, well, I want to know what's going on in the restaurant, not just what's coming out on the plate, but how did it come together? Fine, you want to sign up for the apprentice program? We'd love to have you. You know, we're looking at talent. We're not predetermining or ruling out any potential group of folks that would have an interest. You know, an interest in helping other people understand what's to love about the state of Maine. You know, I was thinking, who do our visitors encounter first? Who are they? What's their first impression of Maine? Who's the first human they talk to? You know, they get off a plane at Portland or in Bangor, and it's probably someone who's staffing at the airport. It might be the cab driver or the Uber driver that picks them up. If they're driving up the highway from Connecticut with their snowmobiles, at
one time it was toll taking.
Right.
Now, in today's world,
it may not be that at all because they have an Easy Pass, but it's likely to be they stop for gas and a bite to eat, and on the highway, at the Burger King or the Starbucks, and it's the individual that greets them at the counter there, and it's the person that when they pull into the hotel and they approach the front desk, that might be the first person in Maine they talk to. These are our people at Hospitality Maine. We want to put our best faces forward, in those positions, and we want to encourage folks to aspire to be part of the welcoming crew.
It sounds like you've got it's a great thing that you're doing. It's a
Thank you.
wonderful thing that you're doing. Mm-hmm. I can see where the challenges come in, and it's like a growing thing.
Well, it is, and that's why I say there are multiple ways. We're focused at Hospitality Maine on looking at who's already here that may not know they have a passion for our industry, and trying to awaken that, to seek them out, and to work with a variety of referral sources. The tourism organization, association, is focused on recruiting nationally. People that may want to come and work seasonally. Maybe they want to work in Maine in the summer and they want to work in Florida in the winter, or in Scottsdale in the winter. And I would say combining all of our efforts, the hope is that, there's an internship program, a significant interns and apprentices are different, and people don't always understand the difference. Well, an intern is typically for a very specific period of time with no commitment to a job at the end of the internship. An apprentice is someone who's already an employee. You're an employee first, you become an apprentice with the promise of a job at the end.
And you're being trained by another individual.
You're being, precisely, and in this apprenticeship program, you're guaranteed a raise when you meet certain, when your skill set has advanced and it's defined, okay? So you're going to get a raise, and you end up with a nationally recognized certificate at the end of a year. So if you wanted to learn in Maine, but ultimately you want to go work, on the West Coast, you could take that credential with you to the West Coast in order to find, work out there. Now, we're not encouraging that. We're wanting to keep people here, but it has a marketability outside of Maine. It's not Maine specific. So The difference is an intern, there's no promise of employment, and with the apprenticeship, there's a guarantee of employment. You finish it, that's the whole idea, is we wanted to train you so you'd stay.
You are an employee.
You are an employee.
In training.
Some interns are paid internships, but they're still not necessarily employees.
I suspect the word intern is more closely aligned with the medical community.
Well,
doctors go through internships.
Right. Yeah, well, there are several businesses in the Southern Maine area who have collaborated around a summer internship program for college students, a paid internship, and so it's designed to provide them with an opportunity to work in in a corporate setting, but also to take advantage of some of Maine's summer assets. So
back in the days of my career, I was never really involved in something like that. I had often spoken about something like that with the insurance industry.
Well, the major companies in the area that I know have participated in the past include WEX. I think they were the ones that did one of their own. They had 50 or so interns in a year, and then the Educate Maine organization and Maine Spark has tried to help grow it, and they had over 300, I think.
WEX, as if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, but WEX is an outgrowth of Rights Express.
It's, yes, an evolution of, I believe that's the case. But they're still centered in South Portland, but moving and building a new headquarters in Portland, out on Commercial Street.
Yep.
Made a real commitment to staying in Maine. IDEX, that has been, growing leaps and bounds, and Unum's been here for years. Well, their industries, they need talent as well, and so they're looking to provide summer internship program. That they've had a program and they've grown it substantially in the last few years, last 2 or 3 years. So it's I mean, think about if you come here as a college student. The University of Maine system has been fairly successful at recruiting students from away. And as much as 25% of the student body at the flagship campus in Orono are non-Maine residents, okay? So would you take this deal, Bob? You come to Maine at the end of August and you leave at the beginning of May. Now, I'm telling you what, I've lived here all my life so far, and if I'm going to be here in January, February, and March, you can bet your bottom dollar I want to be here in June, July, and August. Okay, that's the payoff in my book. It's part of, it's not that I don't like winter. Winter is more work than summer, okay? So there's many more things to do that need to be done, so you have less recreational time. In summer, it frees all that up. We heat with wood at my house, so when I say it means more work, I mean it.
Especially living in Kennebunk, in summer you have the beach.
Right. So if you think about it, if our institutions of higher learning are focused on this, maybe we can come up with a calendar shift, and you can actually learn during the summer. We're looking at, we have to think outside the box, because we're the best time to be here. I mean, I've been thinking, who's going to come and then have to, go back to Kansas and, June, July, and August. And not that Kansas is a bad place, but it's hot, it's humid, it's flat. And I'm thinking,
Kansasians are not going to like you.
Well, they probably won't watch, right? I'm just saying that we're attracting these young people, and then we're sending them home. Let's find ways to tie them in with employers who are looking for summer help. You can make darn good money working as wait staff in, where we have a significant tourism draw.
For a number of years,
go back to school.
The challenge, and maybe it's still a challenge, but the challenge has been, we did the graduation rate in the state of Maine from colleges and universities is pretty high. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good in comparison with other states, with many of the other states. Where we have fallen short is being able to hold on to these graduates here in the state of Maine. They have to, and you touched on it earlier, they have to go out of state to get a job.
Well, and I would say that's what's changed now, and we're not used to that change. Not only our messaging to our young people has not adapted to the change, and even our employers. There are, when we talk about immigrants and new Mainers filling these roles, we have employers that may be reluctant to hire someone for whom English is not their first language. Okay, even though they may have all the skill sets that the employer needs. So we've got to, those are, we talk about soft skills with the talent in our employees. Well, there are soft skills within the employment setting that we have to address that that will make it easier as well. And the way we talk about to our own children and what their expectations are. I have 3 young adult children. They're all in their early 30s. And all of them were educated in Maine, and all of them are living and working in Maine. Okay? I'm pretty proud of that. They're financially independent of their parents. They're pulling their own weight. They're contributing, paying their taxes, and hopefully raising kids that will do the same. And, the message was different. What do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? Figure out how to make that happen. One of them is a mental health professional, a therapist in Bangor. I have a son who works at Job Corps in Bangor, and a son that works at Poland Spring in Poland. And the jobs are there, and we need to do it. We need to do a better job of connecting people with the skill set with those positions.
I just have the sneaking suspicion that now with you being a member of that community, that'll get done.
Well, I'm doing my best, and I'm enjoying it immensely. The hospitality industry is a bedrock of Maine's economy. Literally billions of dollars generated, and much of that, if not certainly the lion's share of it, is money that comes into Maine from someplace else. We're not just taking that same dollar and recycling it locally. It's money coming into the state. And so we're looking to build, like I said, the goal is a sustainable talent supply chain for the industry, and changing the perception of it. There are careers. We need people who choose hospitality as a career. We need them. Those are the professionals that we need running our restaurants and running our lodging facilities so that we can continue to compete.
You've been on my show too frequently because you already know, you just gave my closing line.
Oh, I'm glad to help. I'm sorry to have stolen the words, but that is...
I normally close, if there's one thing that you want people to walk away with from this show, what would it be? You just told me that. Mm-hmm. But thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure being here, Bob. Thank you.
And again, if at any time in the future you think you have something that you want to get out there,
I'll be back.
Give me a call.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Folks, that's a wrap. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. And see you next week. Bye-bye.